Before the semifinals today, I wanted to take a look at JDG's most important player and his fantastic performance in the first game of the quarterfinals against Rook, which is Kanavi, and what we can actually learn from his performance. Of course, the game starts in draft, and like I mentioned in the last video, I don't really like the draft setup from Rook here. JDG gave them actually most of the picks they want, like Lucian, Nami and Azir, but the truly problematic picks were on the top side, where we could really see the champion pool problems that Rook had. Renekton blind into the free champs shown and versus counter picks still left open didn't make much sense and takes the game away from how Rook usually wants to play. Also, Vi doesn't enjoy playing versus all of this JDG comp either, so the last pick was not used well at all. Graves really outpaces Vi hard and can't really lose 1v1 to Vi under normal circumstances, which enables him to play very aggressive, and Kanavi also leverages his lanes quite well. So it's not looking good from the beginning, but it's still important to know how to play it out, and Kanavi reads Malrang perfectly the whole game, makes barely any mistakes. It's a really great watch, so let's take a look. So the basis for everything that's going on very early into the game is that the bot lane Aphelios and Ludo against Lucian Nami has push for the first 3 waves usually, depending on how the level 1 goes, which is already something that Graves can work with. Taliyah and Gragas will probably struggle a bit early game into their matchups, at least in the basic 1v1, but they can play around bouncing waves. So the first thing that's really happening is the invade on level 1 by JDG, and they can go for this invade because they have a much better level 1 fight on the top side with Graves. If you compare Graves to Vi or even Taliyah to Azir, they are much stronger level 1. So they can go for this invade uncontested. And Rook could only really do anything about it if they anticipated very early, which they didn't, and at this point when they spotted it's too late. So that's very good for Kanavi, because this is the only time he will realistically have access to this part of the jungle, since Azir and Renekton will have push under normal circumstances. After clearing red and Raptors, he goes straight to his bot side jungle, and the reason is, in this kind of way of playing, he completely denies the chance for Vi to get anything at all there. He has no shot at invading. Also, thanks to bot lane push, it wouldn't even be a good play. So Vi's options are already quite limited. So this now is a quite interesting part, I would say, and some junglers I think would just stay bot side here, do their red buff, do the bot side scuttle with bot prio and be happy with it. But Kanavi knows the only good play that Malrang on Vi realistically has is try to go for his blue buff with Renekton pushing the wave top in to get anything back at all in the start. So I think it's a bit of a mistake by Malrang, since a top gank should not work at all. So the only possible position for Vi at this point is top lane or Scuttle Crab, since we didn't spot him at the blue buff, and he can't go into the bot side jungle. Everything is warded, and Graves was there when the timer was actually on point for Vi. So this is quite a big blunder from 369. This should really never be possible to happen. It's completely known where Vi is, there's no other possibility, and the trade doesn't really do anything for 369. Big blunder. Yeah, quite careless from 369. This should never really happen. So in the end, it's at this point not that bad for Rook, because the wave stays in a good wave state for Renekton and he got first blood. But in my opinion, it's still nothing to really worry about, since Renekton into JDG's comp won't have a good time ever, and Gragas can hold this champ very well in lane and in teamfights. What we can see Kanavi do next is take Vi's Raptors again, since he still has the timer from the invade, and he can calculate from the base timing of Vi, which takes 8 seconds, and then the time it takes her to arrive from the base to Raptors, that he will easily be quick enough, and he can stunt her gold and XP growth even more like this, leaving 1 Raptor up. At this point, Kanavi has a couple of possibilities. One is base instantly after Raptors. We can assume it should just be enough to get his Dirk spike, which is a really big spike for Graves and the one he usually wants. The other possibilities are cleaning his wolves, which makes no sense and would not be a good play, since he wants them to spawn at the same time as Grump for the most efficient pathing. And when considering Vi pathing, it's best to take red and raptors now to deny any kind of counterplay around bot side, and also for faster camp respawns, so that's why he does this before recalling. Now that Vi is spotted, Kanavi can deduce from Vi's CS she did bot jungle and scuttle crab, and only has Crux left to do, so quite a similar situation to before. And he can now decide what does he want to do. Does he want to do Crux and go for Drake with his bot lane, or does he want to go for his top lane camps and try to go for a counter gank or something like that and cover for 369? It's very similar situation to 3 minutes ago, only play for Vi again, ganking top, which is also not really how Rook wants to play normally. So he does Wolves and Gromp, which paths towards the top side and is also aligning his jungle camp respawns again for the most efficient clearing. He dictates the whole game so far and anything Vi can do. Marang didn't really have any say in what he does so far. And also it's really hard to play for Rook, they have zero information really about Graves so far. He could also be bot side and do Dragon at this point, it's quite hard to play. So now this is pretty standard, he just pushes out the wave with 369, so he can base. At this point he's really far ahead, already level 6 to level 5, has a gold lead. The timing for red is slightly off when calculating Renekton's respawn, and looking at mid lane, Talia won't really want to join him there. It's not the best play. So this is maybe the only slight inaccuracy so far from Kanavi. So we can see the minion wave, but from what we can deduce, it was pushing into Larsen. There was really no reason for Larsen to trade aggressively, and he knows exactly where Graves is, so this is just a very bad play. It's quite a common solo queue mistake actually. If you play jungle yourself, you will see this happen quite often. Generally a good rule for you as a laner, if the wave is pushing into you, especially big waves, and there's a chance of getting ganked or solo killed, but at the same time no way to get dove. Just let the wave push into you and be patient a bit. Maybe tin out the wave, but don't trade, and good things will happen. So now with bot lane still having push, Kanavi can go for the bot side invade. There is the possibility to go for Grump as well, but if you think about Vi and when she could have recoiled like 30 seconds ago maybe. Means it's slightly more risky to do the double camp here, so he just takes blue buff and is happy with that, and secures his Umbral, which is another pretty big spike for Graves. So now there's the decision to be made, play for Drake or Herald. In this case, Gragas has the possibility to create a slow push when we are looking at his wave state, and it would be on time with Graves and his camp timers, so Kanavi decides to go for Herald, which is also, I think, a bit more helpful than Cloud at this stage of the game and accelerates his lead even further. I think he would have done blue as well if there was time, but looking at the wave top, it's not quite enough time, so he just goes straight to Herald. Also Lulu linked up her recoil timing wave, which is very important. So this is basically the first time Rook or Marang has a bit of breathing room and can actually do anything with his team, so they put some deep wards and go for Dragon and trade the objectives. So 9:30 minutes into the game is the first time Marang really has autonomy over what he's going to do. Here there are two possibilities. The first one is go for Raptors, go for Crux from Rook's topside jungle, and then try to go for a dive. From the ping we can see he thought about it as well. But yeah, I think it would be quite a risky call, because Azir has TP and Vi could just try to contest for it and then can get really ugly for JDG. Also Renekton is not that easy to dive, so they decide against it. Also Odo realizes this really well, nice awareness, and he already places the ping, knowing that this kind of dive can happen. Seems like he has quite the experience. So deciding against the dive, Kanavi goes through mid lane for the scuttle crab and chunks out Larsen a bit. nothing really much happening now, and he records. At this stage, massive lead already, most gold in game as a jungler. 1k gold lead over Malrung, completely dictating the whole game, and JDG have a good setup to win this match. So what we can really take from this, Kanavi really knows how to keep up the pace for the whole early game. There were barely any active decisions for Malrung to do. He knows how to use the push of his laners really well on the correct timings, and he really understands the wave states of all the lanes. Which is really integral to a jungler like Graves, where you want to invade a lot, where you want to outpace the enemy jungler and really leverage your pushing lanes. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or a comment and subscribe to my channel.